Hello, everyone. Thank you for stopping in to share a virtual cup of reflectivity with me, Breege. Yes, our theme continues. Let me serve it up to you while it's still hot and steaming. So today, I actually drew two cards. They both came out together, and as I sat with them, once again, it was just obvious how perfect this pairing is today. Loving it. I drew creation code number 5, He, and creation code 6, VAV. And what I really love about this combination is because we're still talking very much about balancing. We're still talking about creativity and making things real, manifesting. So our theme keeps continuing. If you've been listening to my previous podcast, you know what I'm talking about. If not, we'll get back into it and just explore different facets of it. What I'm feeling here is that we are collectively and individually in a big time right now for big shifts, big new ideas to come in that want to take us over the edge of the old and into something completely new. And right now it feels like a lot of us are still kind of tangled up a bit in some of the old energies, old patterns, old beliefs, which of course takes a little bit of time to disentangle ourselves from, because these are very old structures, norms that we have been living by for so long. And we are now at the point where we can deliberately choose what we want to take into the future with us and what has served its purpose and can now perhaps be repurposed as fertilizer, as a foundation, because we do want to build something new. And my sense is that we will be sitting in this energy, not sitting with it, actually working with it intimately all through the summer, I would say. I mean, these are intended to be timeless readings, so you apply it to whatever that means to you. But at this time that I am shooting this, we are in summer of 2022, and I feel that this theme will be with us in a big way, in a way that is asking us to really look inward and really do the restructuring and make our choices and decisions from which to then launch. That's going to take us through the summer, and I feel personally that the fall, and for some of us winter, will be a time when we will start seeing the breakthroughs, the shakeout in the physical, when we will really start seeing what's been shifting within us in our outer reality. And I feel that the fall and winter are going to be very illuminating and fertile times of big breakthroughs and big shifts, and probably a lot of work, but finally work that we can really apply to the outer world and not just the inner. But right now, we're really still working with our inner concepts, our inner paradigms. And so let's get into the creation codes we're working with today. He, creation code number 5, is a very feminine energy. It's belongs to the fire element. So we have a lot of creativity here, a lot of drive for freedom. It's not a drive for physical achievements. It's really a drive for going with the flow, being free, letting ourselves be taken in it along adventurous new paths. It's a very pioneering, freedom-loving, creative, fluid energy. Very beautiful. And on the other hand, creation code number 6, VAV, is a masculine energy. It belongs to the earth element, and it's all about focusing the energies so that we can manifest them and make them real, bring them about in the physical. Very oriented towards the physical. However, still working with the creative principles that He brings in. So it's a powerful duo, those two. They really do need to go together, because how this can show up. And I am tapping into a collective here that is very much working with creativity and bringing through new messages, new methods perhaps, a new business, new ideas. But this can also apply to relationships, romantic or otherwise, and most definitely the relationships with our inner parts. We all have so many different parts that want to be addressed. So relationship in general, particularly with ourselves, but also very much so in more intimate partnerships. But I will probably talk mostly about the creative aspect here, and then apply it in whichever way it resonates. And quite likely it will resonate in different areas of your life as well. So again, we're working with the feminine and the masculine energies, the fluid creativity versus honing in and making it real. Hey, the symbol for Hey is it's a mouth, which fits very well, because Hey is also a lot about speaking up, being vocal, using our voice, standing up for ourselves, being assertive. And, you know, sound is what created this whole world. The word created this whole world. And then VAV, the symbol for VAV is the nail. And I thought it was perfect, because I got that image of, we need to nail it down. We need to nail it down in order to bring it down onto this earth realm, because, hey, creation code 5 can get really dreamy, can get really lost in the intangible, in the conception of things instead of the birthing of it. So 5 can be very dreamy. And it's beautiful to get lost there. I have 5s in my blueprint, and let me tell you, it's very tempting to get yourself lost in the dream world, to just fantasize about what you would like to have in your life, who you would like to be. It can be a form of escape if we don't want to face what's going on in our current physical reality or emotional reality. So there is that caveat here to, yes, use your daydreams, use your beautiful ability to use your imagination and receive those creative impulses and ideas. And also, 5 is extremely psychic. It has a wide open antenna that picks up on so many signals all at the same time. And so that can get very dissipating. That's a theme, that's a word that I've been using a lot since I started this podcast. Oh my gosh, just over a month ago now. So dissipation can be a challenge here, quite literally. And VAV also can struggle with that, because like hey, VAV is extremely creative and gets a lot of downloads and a lot of ideas from the higher realms. But if we don't know how to focus and how to take that energy and run with it, run with a vision and come up with ways to make it real, then we really can get stuck in that uncontained energy, I want to call it. We don't have enough of a vessel to funnel this energy and bring it through, to create that laser focus, that can pull in all the different vague, dreamy energies and combine them, pull them together into a coherent and cohesive whole so that we can then make plans and go for it. Lay the foundations. So that's the dynamic here, the tension theme that I'm sensing. On one hand, He just wants the freedom. He does not want to be nailed down. I mean, that is the worst, right? So there's a tension dynamic here that on one hand says, I want my freedom. I want to do what I want to do. I want to dream what I want to dream about. And I don't want any interference. And I don't want any limitations. And don't try to nail me down into this third dimensional reality where I now have to deal with the whole practicality of everything, which just dulls it all down. That can be a voice that He brings to this energy right now. And on the other hand, we're learning about commitment here. We're learning that committing to something is the path to freedom. Because if we stay in the swirling energy and we don't have enough structure, as much as it's nice to be in this creative flow state and receive and conceive all of these beautiful ideas that don't really want to or even need to be tethered to reality and practicality in this initial stage, which is what makes it so addictive, right? But if we don't have enough of a container to collect this energy and then, as I said, focus it, funnel it, and bring it through this birthing canal. Birthing is a very limiting affair, if you look at it. There's not much freedom in that. It's just an impulse of nature that just wants to come through, and we have to push, and it's narrow and it's uncomfortable and we're being squeezed. So that's the dynamic here. And when we can learn that having some sense of structure, some level of commitment, without constricting it too much, that's the other side of it, right? We don't want to contract to the degree that now there is no movement and no flow possible. So that means keeping an open mind, keeping flexibility and openness, and communication open, so that this container stays adaptable and can shift and change with the needs of what wants to come through here. Whether that's a project, an idea, a new version of yourself, or a new kind of relationship. And especially in the realm of relationship, it becomes clear how much communication needs to be a part of this. And both Creation Code 5 and 6 are actually really good with communication. It's part of their gifts. Again, with 5, we have to learn to stand our grounds and to be assertive. But for that, we first need to be aware of what our needs actually are. And for that, we need to come out of that dissipated spaciousness and come here into what's present in the moment, so that we can then verbalize it and express it. And we need to make sure, as much as it's important for us to really stand our ground with where we're coming from and what we need and why we need it, we need to also hold that same space for the other party or parties involved, whether that's an internal part, a situation, or a person. They too deserve the space to be heard and to speak up with their needs and with their opinions. And if your opinions seem to collide and not mesh very well, they're still probably valid. It's not about right or wrong here. That's the flexibility that especially VAV needs to stay open to. Although Hades has its own theme around that. It's that balance, right? It's not black or white. It's not right or wrong. There are different perspectives that we can now put on the table so that we can work with them and come to an agreement of what might work for all of us. And that's challenging. Again, right now, the phase that we're in is really discerning which of the old ways of being and thinking and operating in this world no longer want to come into the future with us. So whether that is an impulse to stay small, a fear of taking risks, VAV can really deal with that. Where are you holding yourself back? Where have you been holding yourself back your whole life? Where have you perhaps denied yourself following your creative visions for your life, your adventurous, freedom-loving spirit? Where have you been trying to fit into the mold? Or where have you been trying to hold on with all your might to a belief that you held onto, that you've been holding for your whole life? Whether that's an outdated identity part of yourself, or a belief you held about relationships, or how the world operates. What are we now ready to leave behind? That's what's been on the table here this whole time. And where we're still feeling a little stuck, perhaps, is that I feel that a lot of us haven't fully yet come up with the alternative. We're maybe becoming more and more clear of what we do not want to bring into the future, what kind of relationship patterns we do not want to repeat at all costs. But what is the new? What does that look like? Right? Because we're now taking the spirit of He and taking it into the realm of the uncharted, where we become the pioneers of a new way of being. And that's going to be unique to each and every one of us. So that's still what I'm sensing a lot of us are working with, is becoming more and more clear about what do we want to move ahead with? What does that look like? And to be flexible with that, because that's not going to be one solid answer that we come up with overnight and then that's going to be the next prison that we'll be in. No, this is something that will shape as we walk this path, that will shape shift, and that will shape shift us in turn. So it's something we can grow with, and that will help us grow. So there's a very fluid dynamic here between the two. They both need to exist. We need to have the fluidity to conceive our new ideas that are not limited, but then we need to give it enough structure and support in order to birth it into a third dimensional reality, which holds limitation as an inherent building block in a sense. But that limitation doesn't need to be a prison. It's just a way to anchor something down and then to keep building on it. So I don't want to call it a limitation anymore in that sense. If we can look at it as a building block, right? Let's say it's a relationship that we're working with here, and we know what we don't want anymore, and there can be a fear around repeating the old that can keep us stuck in not even wanting to move forward at all, and perhaps insisting on our freedom a little too much. So if we don't have an idea of how we do want to address relationships or build relationships from this new paradigm, maybe we can just start inching our way in and start exploring it together with very open communication. honest communication. Honest, first and foremost, with ourselves. So, yes, I feel I keep repeating myself here. But there's a real need right now to learn to trust in the intangible nature of spirit, our intuitive nature, and to learn to really trust in it. Because it is what precedes manifestation. Without the vision, without the impulse, without the idea, and the passion behind that idea, nothing will be manifested. And on the other hand, if we're too tight and constricted with our ideas of how it needs to be manifested or what's possible for manifesting it, no, that doesn't feel very good either, does it? It's not going to lead us to the freedom and this new exploration of a new way of being that He is seeking so much. And VAV, Creation Code 6, actually can take that one to an extreme. VAV can be extremely stubborn and stuck. And I feel we probably all can relate to this. I know that I can. Where in the past, I remember times when I really insisted upon my limitations. It feels almost like, it's an excuse, really. It's an excuse to stay stuck and make ourselves feel better so we don't have to face the reality that we are creating our own stuckness. So that's another potent question to ask yourself, to really look at your current situations and see if there are any ways in which you might still be insisting on your own limitations. You know, all the excuses we have. Oh, well, I don't really have the money right now to follow my dreams. Or I really don't have the time for a proper relationship. I need to focus on my business. Or whatever it is. We have so many excuses that we can come up with. We will always find excuses if we're looking hard enough. That's a human nature. So, do we really want to stay stuck there in the old? I'd say the answer is no, probably for most of us. So, if we can identify ways in which we are still holding ourselves back with our own limiting stories, we now have the power to come up with a new story. Balancing the limitless with the focused energy that nails it all down. Both need to be an element of this to fully see us through into this next phase that's going to open up to us pretty soon here. And if we're not ready, it's going to be a little bit more bumpy. But we're all headed there. We're all going into this next phase. And we don't have to delay it. That's the thing. If we work with this now and we're really being present to what is now, and right now it's a lot about the incubation, the preparation stage, the clarity stage, the visioning stage. And soon enough, it's going to be time to really run with it because we're now laying the foundations. And once those foundations have been laid and the timing is right, we're going to be asked to really step up to the plate and to go for it. And that might be a very busy time. So use this time now. If you are one of us here that still feels like, oh my gosh, the energy is so potent right now. I feel such a high energy. It's just looking at those two codes here. High energy. But it's not quite here yet. But that's what we're working on. So use this time right now to clear the ground, to prepare the soil, to really hone in on your vision, to learn to trust in it. You know, again, self-doubts, fears, stubbornness, all of that is now ready to come to the surface so that we can clear it out for the next step. Again, we're at the edge. This is the fool's journey that we're getting to start all over. fool's journey is never done with and over. It only ever spirals back again to take us to the next level. That's where we're at, folks. I really hope that this reading resonated with you and brought you some inspiration of where to look in your life right now, in your inner life most likely, but also how that plays out, how that is reflected in your outer situations and relationships. All right, everyone, that's it for today. Thank you very much for joining me here, and I will see you next week. All the best. Take care.